Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will try to speak about food security and food desirability, because we are facing global changes with unpredictable consequences, and the ability to feed oneself has become a major concern. But I think that it should not put shade of the fact that food is a total social fact, and food then connects people to each other and to their land, and with more than humans world, and also colonial history and forms of imperialism. This is why I propose to reflect on the relationships that are embedded into food in order to try to approach what could matter to people and what could be desirable. So first of all, I will contextualize my study and field. Then I will discuss food as a vector of identity and some traditional structures of the diet that I observed on the field. I will then discuss food transition, and I will highlight some of the constraints that weigh on food choice. So first of all, I am working on Nicaragua, which is a village of about 400 inhabitants that is located in Epi, in the center of the Vanuatu archipelago. I am working mostly with ethnography methodologies, such as participant observation, semi-structured interview, and alongside some methodologies like pile sorting or qualitative food record. So people in Nicaragua are cultivating gardens. Each household cultivates 3 to 7 different plots with a great variety of crops and also fruit trees. Livestock farming varies greatly. Most people feed fowls. Some of them feed beef and pig, but it is mostly for customary reasons. Hunting is quite rare and occasional. And as for fishing, it is mainly free-diving fishing for man and baited line thrown from the shore for children and women. Children and women also gleans mollusk and crustaceans to eat. The main incomes of people are the participation into seasonal international work programs in New Zealand, the sale of kava, which is the main cash crops, and there are a few salaried jobs too. So everywhere I go, I hear this question, "Be you sabe kakai island kakai?" which means, are you able to eat island food? And this question seems to reveal that island food is different from white people's food. And the first one seems to require initiation and perhaps skills. So here are a few differences. Island food is thought to be strong, hard, and it has the ability to build strong bodies that are capable to hard work in the garden. Whereas the food of the white man is soft, which make it attractive, but also produces soft bodies that lack of vigor and that are too fat. There are two main preparations that are paramount of this divide. The first is roasted food, which make food even tougher, and that it is thought to be connected, to be an heritage of the ancestors that that had a lifestyle connected to the forests. And the other preparation is boiled food. The main element is water, and excessive water is thought to create bodies that are weak. The local character of food isn't exclusive, which a food is considered as local time it is planted and grown in the garden, and it's the conjunction of a species, a producer, and the land that make a food local. The use of money too is used to distinguish white people, but also urban dwellers, from those that live according to the custom. Of course, there are monetary exchanges in the village, but the difference is that the buyer knew who cultivated the food and where. Also, locally produced food is considered alive because it is charged with vitality and it is eaten fresh, while the food from the store is considered dead, but also a cause of death because of diseases and sickness. And the surplus production is suspect because it is thought to cause upon supernatural forces, and which means that a good producer must engage with redistribution processes. But at the same time, the state is now encouraging people to become real farmer and real investor and generates profits, which sometimes is punished according to people. So the traditional diet is composed, so first in the morning you would have to eat hearty breakfast because the lunch is often skipped because people are working in the garden. Also, the meals in the evening should be hearty too, with a generous portion. Throughout the day, people would have several snacks composed of nuts and fruits. And a good meal would have starchy food with island cabbage and coconut cream. And together, cabbage with milk coconuts, it would be considered as nutritious as meat because people don't eat animal proteins every day. It is really occasional, and usually it comes from the fishing, the hunting, or the gleaning, while livestock meat is kept for customary events or life cycle events. Every meal should have dry components like tuber or roots and wet components like broth or tea or water from the coconut. But we can see that this dichotomy, wet and dry, is moving to a triptych, which is composed by starchy food, vegetables, and animal proteins. And some foods are shifting. For example, island cabbage is no longer considered a meat, but only a vegetable, which means that a meal with only island cabbage and coconut cream would now be considered unbalanced, incomplete, and then devalued. We can see that most of exogenous and processed food are inserted into this triptych or into the dry-wet structure, which could have unexpected effects. For example, lollipops can replace fruit or nuts snacks, and sodas are wet enough to balance dry components of a meal. There is also an increased consumption of animal proteins because it is now a prerequisite for a balanced meal. But the availability of local meat isn't increasing, which means that people would rely more and more on canned and frozen meat that they buy to the store. And we can see that the function of the food and the ternary composition of the meal could take precedence over its interesting qualities like local or live kakai. And also processed important food can be important in the constitution of social prestige. Even if some categories mingles and mix together, people are fully aware of what food is good to eat, what food is healthy, but so it is not ignorance or laziness, as I heard just yesterday. Food choices are not only individual choice, they are constraints too. First of all is the need for money to build sustainable and modern house, school fee, customary obligation, and church-related expenses, for example. There is also a decreasing time allocated to subsistence. In Nicaragua, 3 days a week are dedicated to the work for the church, and 1 day is dedicated to the community work. And people are accumulating different duties like religious functions, customary functions. They are also part of different committees, etc. There is also a problem with the lack of men that are working abroad, and it has consequences for the food strategies and resilience of households. And there are some breakdowns in custom. For example, in Nicaragua, when a woman marries, she would have to go and live with her husband's family. But in Nicaragua, there's a lot of young couples that choose to stay, to settle, and take advantage of the rich soil to grow cava rapidly and generate incomes, which means that since the land is redistributed at the tribe level, there are a decreasing number of plots available for each family, each household. And there is too a scarcity of land, which is too a constraint. As a conclusion, I would highlight the fact that one thing that matters is the web of relationships that support food system, and notably relationship to the land and the ancestors. Dietary recommendation can produce unexpected effects as they are integrated in original ways into local systems of values, and it is the same for processed and imported products. Incentives to productivism can undermine customary processes that are integral to resilience. And last but not least, I think interdisciplinarity is a key to ensure that the building of food security and food resilience coincide with desirable futures for people. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Casson. And I will give the floor to the assistants to any question or comment.
Oh,
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. Really fascinating. It sounds like a great thesis. And I was just going to ask that with the male out migration overseas, for men leaving, how that's affecting like the agricultural production, are they, they would be planting the gardens and digging.
Yes. Usually men are leaving for 7 months. So, for example, there's household I surveyed, they usually cultivate 4 different plots, but some of them are far away from the village, and also it is really hard to start new garden. It is a lot of work. So the woman is alone with 2 children, and she cannot work the 3 gardens that are far away, and also she's afraid to be alone in the forest. So it means that there is only 1 garden remains, and also usually the fishing of the man is more effective because fish are bigger, so it has also impact on that side.
Just a quick follow-up. If with the women taking over the gardening, I suppose that they would be cultivating for longer periods rather than making a new garden, you know, with the men away, which would mean that they would have actually more work with weeding and things like that as the weed seeds build up.
Yes, but actually there is the 2. First, it's hard to open new garden, but also for weeding the existing gardens. Usually gardens that are far away are used for cava, and because of the white pigs. And also they are afraid to be alone, and so they could go with another woman, but it's the same problem. The other woman is waiting for her husband to come back to open a new garden, so the 2 of them could work together and not be afraid. So it's not impossible, but it's a weight on food strategy.
Thank you so much. I think
when people open a new garden, is it a question at the household scales, or it's a collective work for all people of the village?
It's like individual work, but usually they do that as a couple or with relatives. More and more they are doing that within the church program. There's like an activity which is called PEM company. So you would go to the garden with 2 or 3 men or women, and you would pay each of them 1,000 vatu to the church. So they work for free.
the last one, the last question. Right.
Thanks for your presentation, Gaston. You said that animal proteins are rarely eaten, and I'm wondering if it's because there is no fishing, or if it's because the fish is sold instead of being eaten by the fish's family.
I would say that now with the Trikain Kakai setup, people eat more and more meat, and they are fishing, but last year they weren't fishing, but this year I think because the sea is quiet, there's a lot of persons that are fishing, and those fish are usually eaten by the family, and sometimes one would ask someone to go fishing for them, so and pay for that. So you can also order fish like that. I don't know if I respond.
Thank you so much, Gaston. We will have time to discuss with them. So we are going to traveling a bit. So go to PNG with Mr. Danny Saka, the University of Goroka, who will present an evaluation of extension approaches to promote traditional food vegetable for food security in Compiègne and Boone district. So, I don't know. Okay. So the person is not here. I don't know. Perhaps there is a problem.
Maybe a last question.
The last grade, yes. You can.
Yes. So you talk about learning skills to eat this traditional strong food, strength of the food, and did people feel concerned of do they see changes between generations and maybe difficulties to transmit or to learn these food skills to younger generation? Because I think we have this kind of issue in New Caledonia on very traditional food, for example, flying foxes. So, yeah, do you have some testimony of these generational issues?
Yes, people would tell that after cycling time, there is nothing to eat, and people ate rice and tinned fish for 3 months, and they say that it is because of that children are like
no more able to...
Yes, that they prefer rice and tinned meat. But I don't know if it's true. That's maybe a preference, but I think there is something like that.
And do you think father mobilities or this kind of mobilities to Australia, does it change also things or not? I don't know why.
I'm not sure because children would eat to their grandparents and family, especially in rural areas. So I'm not completely sure, but when fathers go abroad, they usually send money to pay food that they cannot cook it. So maybe that's a side effect.
Thank you.
Yes, because our person is not connected, so we can take advantage to this moment to discuss. So I think we can use this moment to ask questions to Cassandre and Arnaud also, because Arnaud is there, so we can take advantage to this moment. Thank you.
Yes, a question to Cassandre. You say that people are, the consumption of meat is increasing, so people buy meat. But where do the meat come from? Come from Villa, but is it meat from Vanuatu? Is it imported meat from Australia, New Zealand? Or what type of meat is it?
It's frozen chicken. There's a lot of...
From Brazil. Okay.
Okay, that's...
Frozen chicken.
I didn't know that it comes from Brazil.
No, it could come from many places, but Brazilian took the into the world.
People are crazy about frozen chicken right now.
Frozen chicken. As in many places. But one comment, I'm a bit disappointed because you see in the 60s, there was a guy from FAO, he went in most of village of Vanuatu, on the coast, with a bottle of Johnny Walker full of fish flakes. The idea was, okay, you catch fish, you could salt them or dry them and put them in flakes. And when you use these fish flakes on starchy foods, yams and so on, so you increase, you see the interest in diets. Because when you could have proteins in vegetables, but these proteins are kept because you need lysines. It's an enzyme for the liberations of these proteins. And if you put fish flakes, you could put also milk powder, the same effect. But it increased. So this guy did a lot of job. At this time, people say, well, number one. But 50 years after, absolutely nothing. Everybody lose all this good practice. So let me.
Thank you so much. Do you have any comment or question to Arnaud or Cassandre? Because I think we have more time than we are expected. Yes.
Just one question for Cassandre. What about eggs?
Eggs are, they eat them, but it's not really often because they would prefer to have I just one. So it is good for them to let them grow. But sometimes they would eat eggs, but really not often.
Thank you so much. There's a question?
For Arno.
For Arnaud. Arnaud, are you still there?
Are you there?
Can you open your mic, please?
Hello?
Thank you so much. Okay.
Hi Arno, sorry about that last one. I didn't mean to get you too distracted by the funding issue. But I was just wondering about, you talk about the rural and urban differences in food gardens. I was just wondering, in your observations, if you could maybe expand on that a little. Like, are there, you did say that urban food gardens are smaller. Maybe you could say something about the types of things they're growing, key differences between rural food.
Sorry, I didn't. Was this a question to me?
Yes, the question.
Okay, can you just come to the mic? That's great.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Arno. I just said before that it distracted you a little bit from about the funding.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask about some of the key differences that you observe between urban and rural food gardens. You did say that urban food gardens were smaller, but I was just wondering if you'd say anything about the types of crops. Are they geared for household consumption or local markets, that type of thing? If you could maybe just say a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yes, the gardens in the urban areas are much smaller because people do not have a lot of land, and they are growing. For example, they do grow root crops, mainly manioc, cassava. But what they do not grow, for example, is yam, because it's more work you have to put in. So people do not have a lot of time to care for their gardens. But they, for example, also try to grow banana or even vegetables. Yes, that's the main difference, I would say. So from the root crops, mainly cassava is grown, and maybe sweet potato, kumala, but you don't see a lot of yam in the urban gardens. And mainly people grow vegetables, I would say.
Thank you. I had a question for you, Arno, because you talk about challenges. So you didn't specify so the challenges you face or people face to food security. Which or what kind of challenges they are faced on the field about food security?
Yes, I think it's a very different factors are constraints for the food security, but we focused on communities. They mainly have problems with water, with flooding or saltwater intrusion. So in our communities, this was one of the main problems they are facing. But they are also, for example, the community in the small island close to Efate, they are facing problems with water, mainly for drinking water, but also in dry times, it's a problem with their crops they grow. But yeah, there are also other problems. For example, the urban area, it's not really connected, or it's only indirectly connected with the food security. They are really facing problems because of the water of the lagoon is very poisonous. They cannot use it because of the sewage of the hospital and other facilities are going into the lagoon. And so they cannot go for fishing there, for example, because it's poisoned. So they have to go further out, and this cannot be done by everyone. Yeah, I think these are the main problems they are facing.
So, thank you for answering. Do you have any question or remarks? Oh, I get a second one. So, in your, you don't talk about extreme events, or who can I call it, to climate change. This question is to both of you, Cassandre and Arnaud. So, did people on the field talk about the extreme events or drought season, raining season, or cyclone season, so who can impact their food system, so their garden or not? So you both of you who can answer. So Arnaud first.
Yes, I will start. I mean, yes, such events are affecting the cultivation of food crops. But actually, I would say it's not the main problem people have. I mean, there was one very long dry season after Cyclone Pam in 2015. So this one lasted almost 1 year. So this was really a problem because it was just after a cyclone. So there are events, they are really, really problematic concerning cultivation of food crops. But actually, on the other side, people are also used to such extreme events. Although they are now more frequent, people have a lot of knowledge how to deal with these problems. So other factors are also influencing food security, and together with these more frequent extreme weather events, yes, they are influencing food security. But it's really important to look at all the factors.
So you talk about local knowledge. So can you give one example? You say people use their local knowledge to face with this problem. Can you give one example? You have one example, can give one now.
After a cyclone, for example, you can cut the banana and it will grow back again. This is one small example.
Great. Thank you so much. Do you have any add?
Agree with
It comes to the laptop for you.
I was saying that I quite agree with you, Arno. People are talking about this kind of events, but actually it seems not to be the main issues. In Nicaragua, they always talk about Cyclone Pam as the major destructive events, and at that time they agree that nothing was alive, and that it was really a dramatic situation. And but for example, last year the state organized like a series of workshops for several months to recover from TC Lola in 2023. But when I asked people what was the damage, I didn't have any kind of answer. So because they they still were able to eat. And one thing that is really important is the ability to cultivate several plots, because some of them are in the wind, some of them are like protected by the valley. So yes, I would say that it is not the major concern regarding to food security, except for big cyclones like Cyclone Falah.
Yes, and actually the problem was not really the cyclone Pam, but the dry period after it, or the combination of the two. First the cyclone, and then people could not plant because of the really dry weather conditions after the cyclones. This was really problematic. But yes, as you said, it's, yeah. And the other factors, I can give you maybe one example. People are now planting their yam not really very early. So some are planting late. And then when a cyclone comes in maybe March, the yam is not ready for harvesting. When you plant it early, as the ancestors, the Bubu, say, it's not a problem because the yam is already ready for harvesting. So, yeah, different factors are coming together, and that's, I think, an important thing to consider when you talk about food security.
I have the same observation on my field too. So they are planting some soft yam more early to face with the climate change, or to prepare it for the climate period, for the cyclone periods. Thank you so much. Any comment or question? No?
Quick question. The fascinating about the one explained surplus as considered as something that's not. So what's behind it? Is it jealousy, faith, the sorcery? And a follow-up question that could be for Falah for money.
Yes, behind the surplus production, well, I think there is two different levels of discourses. The first one is that everyone should have the ability to grow as many food as they want, because if others are jealous, pushes back. There's push to work. So, but in reality, I observe that if people eat a lot of food or fish, a lot of fish, then people would say, if they come to be sick after that, they would say that it is because of this surplus. And I have one example of one young man that is also employed, so he has a salary, and he's the manager of the cooperative. So, and also he wants to have a big garden, really a big one, and he counts like, I think last year he planted 800 water tower and as much Falah. But people were jealous of his success, and then for New Year he redistribute water tower. So he wouldn't say that is because he produced surplus, but I think there is a connection. And I don't know if it would be more moral, but in the fact people are growing Falah because it's the main source of income. But I don't know. I assume that it could be subject to jealousy too. And yes, I don't know. That's actually a good question. I will try to investigate more.
Thanks a lot. And you mentioned some standard, like that correctly?
Okay.
Mentioned about in stages. This is really and it's the same in public flaps in the highlands. So just some parts of the country, quite interesting, like the Britain Island. Taro was really cold. They cannot grow it in a lot of really good cut in the bush. Taro beetles come in, just stop it. And what people are now villagers very remote. So then they bring that down ceremony, children and menses, children that do fest funerals and all contracting. So they haven't lost the attachment to this people still have still.
That's really interesting.
It's interesting because I, valuing the
Yes, in Tara, I think that so water Tara is really valued too, alongside yam and white yam too. And the higher the mountains grows, the most valuable it is. So there are some villages up the hill, and they are selling their water tower, and people really like them. It's the same variety that grows in their own garden, but it's from the bush.
well, that's similar. Using it very remote.
for this reason.
Is it really the same cultivar that people grow in Appalachia and village?
Yes, I couldn't tell.
Because with all this vegetative production, you could have so you could have different tastes.
Yes.
Even if it looks like the same type of charro, tastes better.
Yes,
It's the reason that because it's higher. The reason it's because the taste is better. Because this guy of this village has the chance to have this situation.
that could be.
And I have also a question to Arno.
Arno, you have a question from Gilbert.
Yeah.
The sheep.
Arno, you about Eracor Bridge, you say that the water is very polluted. Okay, but do they wild fish from outside the lagoon enter in this lagoon? As remember, in this place, at the eastern period, you have lots of barracuda, very small barracuda of 30 centimeters or 40 centimeters who enter in this part of the lagoon. And this was a huge time for fishing this barracuda, even if you have a risk of poisonous. But so my question is it still so polluted that external fish from the lagoon don't reach this part, or do the barracuda continue to come in this part of the lagoon of Vila?
Actually, I cannot answer this because my information are just from the initial workshop we made in Eracor Bridge, and people only told us that it's too poisonous because the fish. But yeah, I would like to ask the people this question, but yeah, no, I cannot answer it because I don't have this information. But yeah, it would be interesting.
Another question? No? I don't know. You have another question?
Hello, Arno. Nice to see
Hi.
You mentioned some comparisons between rural and urban areas, and I'm wondering if you also have some insights into comparison between Fiji, Vanuatu, and the Solomon Islands, even if you have not been able to finish the survey you wanted to do there.
Yeah. I would say from my very preliminary insights, it's quite the urban areas are similar throughout the three countries, and the rural sites are similar. So there's more difference between rural and urban than between the three countries. That's what my first impression is, actually, because they are facing in the urban areas, they are all facing similar problems. They don't have enough space to plant because it's very crowded. They have jobs, so they buy food. They have to buy food. Yeah, it's like that.
Thank you. Bye.
Have some minutes left and take advantage of those minutes to ask questions or comment.
It's just a question for you, Arno, if you will be here in April in Vila, or
Can you come to the microphone? So
are you? Hi. Are you in Vanuatu for during the next weeks, next month? Even if you don't have the answer from Gilbert and.
Yes, I will be in Vanuatu until end of April.
Okay, so hopefully we'll see. Yeah, thank you. That's really
I have a last question for all people. Oh, so in your opinion, what are the priority actions needed to ensure a more resilient and sustainable food system in Pacific region, specifically Vanuatu and Canada? So it's an open, very open question. We can have 1 or 2 minutes.
You want to be the next Ministry of Food of future Vanuatu.
So